On behalf of Keith and Mary and the rest of the family, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their day to come and to celebrate the life of Aunt Judy. So I'd like to start with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning with heavy hearts, Father. It seems that we're back here too soon. And so I pray, Father, that as we go through the service this morning, that you would be with each one of us, that you would comfort us, Father, that we would be able to remember the good times, that we would support each other, and then, Father, most of all, that we would understand your will for us and how we can deal with this, and that you would comfort us, Father. We thank you so much for Jesus. We thank you. We know that his grace and his mercy is what binds us all together, Father. And we thank you so much for him. In his holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. Let's start with a song this morning. This is always a favorite. I come to the garden alone. I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him, though night around me be falling, but he bids me go through the voice of woe. His voice to me is calling, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. Julilynn Hooge of Bush, Louisiana, passed away on Friday, February 26, 2021, at the age of 91. Julilynn is survived by her son Keith and Mary. She also leaves behind to cherish her memories, her grandchildren Jonathan Hooge and Dawn Hooge, as well as her great-grandchildren Jeremy Bernadas, Briella Bernadas, Myleigh Inthavong, and Preston Hooge. She is preceded in death by her loving husband, Godfred Hooge, and her daughter, Deborah Marie Hooge Chiasano. Julilynn has a passion for baking sweets and spending time with her family.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. Though Satan should buffet, through trials should come, let this blessed assurance control, that Christ hath regarded my helpless estate, and hath shed his own blood for my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. And Lord, haste the day when the faith shall be sight, the clouds be rolled back as a scroll, the trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
Hopefully I can make it through this time. First, I want to thank everybody for coming here. I feel really bad because I couldn't have it tomorrow. Anyway, just because it would have been nice to have other people, but it's Friday, other people have other work and everything else. I understand that. That's it's just the way it is, pictures, like I said, it looks the same setup that I had with my dad, except that I'm going to have extra pictures with my mom and everything. Before I forget, this horse is probably one of the last things my mom could really see. She was losing the sight, losing the hearing, poor thing. But she knew a horse, and she painted that a long time ago. It was a numbers thing, and it's not that, that big a deal. She did it, and she was proud of it. It was good. So I wanted to mention that. My But my mom and dad, you know, they were kind of polar opposites, okay? My dad, he was into simple, okay, really simple. And my mom liked things a little bit, you know, nicer, okay? So with that, I just kind of get a little bit of the history of my mom. Mom was born June 12th, 1929. She was raised by her mom and her uncle. She never knew her father. Which is sad in itself. You know, actually, the Hooge family became her family. The only person I knew coming up on her side of the family was her uncle, and that was it. And I said she didn't know her dad. She had one life. You see some of the pictures in here with the two little girls. That's my mom and Miss Gladys. Miss Gladys died a couple of years ago. At 94, she was a couple 3 years older than my mom. And they were friends when they were coming up. And there's only she's had other friends since then, but it's the only lifelong friend that she's had that she stayed in touch with for the longest time. Today, I wanted to mention this. Today, for me, it's not a happy day, but for my mom, it is a happy day. Okay, and as I go along here, you may understand why. The night that my mom and dad were engaged, her mother died of a stroke. I don't know if it's the exact night or the night before, but she had a stroke and she died. And anyway, my mom and dad were married August 30th, 1947. They were married for over 73 years. This August would have been 74. You know, marriage is always a tough thing, okay? And they had their big bumps and everything else. But one thing that came out of it over a span of 70-something years is they were always concerned about the other. They always was concerned about the other. You know, a story I told a few of you all already is they were in quarantine from the flu, and they went both in the hospital. One went in one day, another one a couple days later. One's on one floor, one's on the other floor. All of them stay in the same room. Phone won't not work. I'm up there with my dad. He can't get in touch with my mom. He's worried about my mom. So I go send a message down to her. I go on down to her and go send a message back to my dad. They're both worried about each other. Okay? So, you know, my dad, not knowing he was on his deathbed, was more worried about my mom. And I guess over a span of time, no matter what happens in your life, that's the most important thing. Is you're concerned for the person that you're married to. At the age of 29, my mom was baptized. She was never baptized in church. From that day on, I had 13 years straight attendance at church. I missed it there. So anyway, but even though I got away, later on in life I came back, and I do miss a day every once in a while, but I am pretty regular. My mom wasn't the best cook, okay? She could cook for us to survive, okay? You know, okay, and really, I mean, she did. She would really have rockfish around and stuff like that. But my mom could bake, okay? She would have lemon meringue pies and chocolate cream pies and cakes and fudge and God only knows what. Banana pudding. Banana pudding was my favorite. And banana cakes, or banana bread. Anyway, you know, that was her thing. She enjoyed doing that, okay? amongst some other things that I'll mention. When I was very young, I remember, it's kind of most young boys are the same way, I think. I was very, very young. I remember playing hide and seek with my mom and just seeing how pretty she was. You know, she was just the most beautiful person on the face of the earth. I was 4 years old, 5 years old. Okay, but we, you know, and, you know, like, I remember wanting to marry my mom, okay? My friends, like his young boys in particular, are like that. We're playing hide and seek and her listening to her soap operas on the old radio that, you know, because I mean, they had the TV, I think, but she had the soap operas there. And she, you know, she always wore this house dress, and this house dress, it was almost like you see on Ozzie and Harriet or something. We had the little A-line dress and everything, and it was just, it wasn't real fancy, but it was just a house dress, and she always wore that, you know. So, anyway, one of the things about my mom, you know, there was a lot of sad things that happened with my mom, and like everyone in life. But you know, one of the things I remember a lot is when I was very young, my Uncle Carl lived behind me, and he had daughters, and my mom would go over there, and I could hear him because nobody had air conditioning. We had window fans and stuff like that. He and him cat would clean across the cockpit. All the girls would laugh and cutting up and everything else and having a good old time, you know. So, yeah, let me get my. I learned a lot from my mom. Learned how to sew a little bit. Learned how to embroidery. I learned how to crochet. Now I can't do any of that now, but at the time I knew a little bit about it, and I could do some stuff like that, you know. Back then, women were housemakers, okay? So I spent a lot of time with my mom. And we did a lot of things, but like I mentioned before, with my dad, he had vegetable gardens and everything else. And we would go out there and pick the vegetables and put them up and everything else. And it was all time spent with my mom, okay? I used to enjoy, had a chair in the kitchen. It was kind of separate. I used to sit there and on occasion be able to sit there and have some nice long conversation with my mom. And that was nice. Because my dad's a talker, and my mom sometimes couldn't get anything in. So what happens is I was able to talk to her just one-on-one. So anyway, as she got older, she got a little adventurous, okay? She wanted to do things, okay? And it was getting harder on her because she was getting older, but she rode on 2 of my motorcycles, and that was something else. I mean, she had a little thing sitting on the back, and a pimple on the back of the seat, and with the helmet on her head. And I just took her around the block a couple of times, this, that, and the other on my first motorcycle. And the second one, when I bought it, she said, well, I want to ride that one too. So, you know, I took her on that one. Well, by the time I got the third one, you know, they were already living in the country, and she had got to where she can't ride. And she wanted to ride the Corvette too at the time now. So she got a little adventurous, and many of me have seen her riding a horse, you know. Of course, the horse's demise was when the horse kicked her, and the horse went. So anyway, a lot of the moments, and you see them up there, and I got a picture over there. Like Valentine's Day at the nursing home was really nice for them. Okay, my mom really enjoyed that. I could see in their face, my dad too, that they really cared for each other. They really enjoyed that. Okay, the first year they had a good many people there, and the second year, you know, they didn't have them. They didn't understand why they had to. I said, Mom, this is a nursing home. Okay, not everybody's gonna be here for that. So anyway, the other thing, my mom loved cats. Okay. You see, she always had a cat, and maybe that's where my love of cats have come from. I usually have one mainly to keep the mice out off my tractor. But anyway, I've always had kind of a cat around, and I guess that's where I get it from. Says it's a happy day for my mom, and my mom, the last 15 years, has been on dialysis. Okay? She moved from the house in New Orleans, a little house in the country, okay? And there's nothing there for her, okay? She couldn't drive anymore out there. And it just kind of got worse from there. And you know, going into dialysis 3 days a week and just not really been able to do anything. Really got to. It really got to. And once she got in the nursing home, I mean, there were some moments there when that was a good thing. Okay, she was able to get amongst some people and do some things. But once the pandemic hit, it pretty much sealed the fate of both of them. And my mom, after my dad passed, she used to say, she says, I don't know why I'm still here. Here I am, going to dialysis to keep me alive, and I don't understand it. And I just want God to take me with Godfred and Jesus and be with them. And I told him, I said, Mom, I said, you know how us Hoagies are. I said, we build our own house and stuff. I said, Dad's up there building your house. And when you study, go get you. I guess you got done. Thank you.
So as we were beginning this service, and everybody was talking and visiting and everything, we were waiting. He said, "That's my motorcycle, Pete." So, way to go. Give me a second here, working with technology this morning. In preparing for this morning, I kind of struggled, just like you probably struggled, because here we are again, right? It's only been like 5 or 6 weeks. And so just like you, I kind of struggled with that a little bit. But the thing that came to me is that, how can I not talk about grief? Because that's something that we're all dealing with right now. Now, some of you have experienced grief, prior to this. I mean, in your own families and friends and stuff, with COVID and just life. Things happen. But I would say the last 12 to 14 months has been very difficult for most people. They've seen a lot more death than normal. I think you would agree with that. Now, if you look at grief, the medical world, of course, they kind of compartmentalize everything. Nice little bullet points. You go through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally, hopefully, acceptance. So those are and then some, if you read up on it, a little bit, some list some other things, but basically, that's it right there. But that doesn't really, for me anyway, as a Christian, that doesn't help me very much. Because I've learned that in my life, that whatever I suffer or whatever lessons I have, I want to see what God has to say about that. And so as we sit here today, grieving, and not just, we're still grieving from the loss of Godfred. And so now we have Julilynn, which is a beautiful name. I didn't even know that was her name. And by the way, the one, my memory of Aunt Judy, 2 things. One of them is that if you were in a crowded room, you could always find her because she had a laugh that was very distinctive. So I could always tell where Godfred and Judy were because of the way she laughed. The other thing I remember is that every Christmas, when Christmas was over, she would come collect the Christmas cards. And she would cut out with a pink and shears, you know what that is. And they would make the tags. I guess it was a church thing. Yeah, it's like the ladies at church or something. So they would take old Christmas cards, and they would cut out the front cover with pinking shears and make little squares, and then that was the tags that went on the presents for the next year, you know. So those are my two memories of Aunt Judy. But you know, in talking about grief, I want to know, you know, and we go through anger, we go through doubt, we go through all these different emotions and things when it comes to grief. And so sometimes we wonder, how could God let this happen? And it's interesting what you said about your mom, about your dad passing. How could God let this happen? And sometimes we think that we don't think about how God feels. We don't think about that. And so I started thinking about that, and you know, the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ is the basis for Christianity. Everybody talks about that. What we don't talk about is how God felt about that. How did God feel about watching his son go to the cross and be tortured and die? This is from Matthew chapter 27, beginning in verse 45. It says, "Now from the 6th hour there was darkness all over the land until the 9th hour." Now, just to note, that's not 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock as we know it. That's noon. That's the middle of the day. So the first thing is that the sun goes dark. And what is that? I mean, if I was there, I'm like, something big's fixing to happen. Something big's fixing to happen. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," that is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" The Spirit of God has left Jesus. Now he's just a man hanging on a cross. Can you imagine how God would feel doing that? Knowing he could, as the hymn says, he could have sent 10,000 angels. But instead, he knew he had to do it. But think about how he felt about doing that, taking that away from Jesus, pulling that back from him. And some of the bystanders hearing it said, "This man is calling Elijah." And one of them at once ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put it on a reed and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, "Wait, let's see whether Elijah will come to save him." And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. So here's the part here where I believe, and there's other meaning to this, okay, to this passage that I'm about to read. Some very significant meanings. But it also is an example of God's grief, I believe. "And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom." Now when you say, this version says curtain, some say veil. Either way, when you think of a curtain or a veil, you think of something that's pretty. I mean, look at the curtains we have here. There's one on the back. I think of a wedding veil, something very sheer, right? So the Bible doesn't say, but historical documents say that this type of curtain could be anywhere from the thickness of your